Top 5 SEC portal questions. I'll get through all the leagues, I think. We'll see what happens after the weekend. We still got another week before it closes. The 29th is when
you think there'll be a surge after all the spring games are done?
Yeah, I mean, because we do have a couple spring games next week, so I'm sure there's going to be some spring games that, on Monday, like the coach on Monday thinks it's going to look one way and it looks different on Tuesday because, it closes on Saturday, so they got to do it. So, all right. Let's go to number 5. Does LSU grab a big wave of players? I think they haven't been super active just yet, but I do think that the offensive lineman from Wyoming, who I'm blanking on his name right now, I think that's a big one for them. I'm curious to see because they were a lot better off in Brian Kelly's first year than I think a lot of people thought they were going to be. And here they can really make a move in the SEC West, especially after beating Alabama last year in what was an instant classic game. So I'm curious to see what they do here. And I think that there could be some of the better and more higher ranked guys in this thing winding up in Baton Rouge at the end of all this.
What do you think they need? I mean, what are they just looking for anything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I think they're in a good position because I don't think they have anything that you have to be like, hey, they have to get this. Although I do know that they feel they need some secondary help, but I think they're probably good enough without making a big splash there. But I think that they're in a spot where at a lot of positions they can just go, okay, who's this best guy that we can get? We can go get him.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely sped up the process with Brian Kelly. I mean, I think, year 2 expectations are heightened, and that might not have been the case or way originally thought that he would, turn them around. I don't even know if it's a turnaround when you've won a title within the last 5 years,
Just gave him a goose.
Yeah, it didn't take him long to right the ship, and I don't know how wrongly it was, situated to begin with. But, he's a great coach, and that's an attractive location for college football players that are looking to win and play in the SEC and get to the NFL and do all that. So I'm sure there'll be an appetizing spot for some folks. But that's interesting to think about who they might get that could potentially put them over the top, I guess. Yeah.
Yep. Number 4, does Bama need a QB? And this has just kind of been rumors that maybe they're not enthralled with what's gone on in spring so far. And most of their guys are true freshmen. So maybe they get in the portal for someone, but there's not really quarterbacks in the portal that scream Alabama to me, guys.
No.
Yeah.
Don't they have 2 young, really high level? Yeah, they probably would like to have had a veteran.
Yeah. I mean, this just, maybe hasn't worked out exactly as they think. I think that they've navigated around it before and been fine. But I do think that, if you're Nick Saban, you got to be looking at your former pupil and Kirby Smart and saying that, look, he's past you right now.
So you don't think Jalen Milroe is going to be elite?
I mean, these are just rumblings out of Tuscaloosa that they.
I mean, this has a lot to do with the fact that Tyler Van Dyke was rumored to be going there yesterday, and then he's not.
Yeah.
And he's not going to Alabama. So wherever that came from, and that smoke started, that there's a thought that they could use somebody. So I mean that's a question going into the offseason is, do they need a quarterback? There's signs to believe that they might want to go grab somebody else, and that'll be certainly a top storyline to follow because who's out there, who's gettable. That they could potentially go and grab.
Yeah. Number 3, what is the overall in and out number at A&M? I'm very curious to see what this is and what their roster looks like of what they thought it was going to be after that number one recruiting class a season ago and what it is now after just the revolving door of players, it seems, coming and going from College Station. They just got one of the guys I mentioned in the non-Power 5, the Davis, the linebacker from Jackson State, committed there today. So that's another player on the defensive side of the ball that they grabbed. They've lost a couple guys on the one guy on the offensive line who started a bunch of games for them last year. But most of the time, I think for a school like A&M, if the guy's leaving, he's not probably starting at the position he wants to. But they're going to be fascinating to watch and see how they attempt to turn around from a 5-7 season last year. and how they adapt with Jimbo Fisher. But they are like, it just seems like every day somebody's leaving and somebody's coming in to A&M after, Jimbo kind of made a big deal about how he was going to recruit mostly out of high school, and that number is shifting.
You say that
rapidly.
until you need something immediately.
Exactly. But that number is shifting rapidly.
Yep, be curious to see. No idea, obviously, because every day it's changing. So yeah, that who knows? But could be sky high based on the way it's trending right now.
I wonder if just the fact and a relief of, yes, there's going to be pressure because he's making so much money, but just on the program, they got so much attention. If kind of being under the radar might be good for them.
Yeah,
possibly.
I think you're probably dead on there. Number 2. Does UF or Auburn land a quarterback? This would be a Ben Bryant stop for me. Like that would make sense. Like he to me would be an upgrade on what they each have. And Craig quoted TJ Finley the other day, pretty upset about what was going on there. And we'll see if Robbie Ashford is in fact the starter at Auburn for the first year under Hugh Freeze and what's going on at Florida. But does either one of these? I mean, I don't know if there's enough guys in the portal that both of them would get the one that they really wanted. I mean, they'd probably both get one, but this might be one of those things where UF and Auburn might be in a bidding war over the one guy that they both want.
Yeah, and then to your question earlier, what if Alabama wants a guy?
Yeah, so, then they both move to second and third on the list, right?
Well, it sounds to me like there's going to be a lot of NIL offers being doled out after spring ball is what it sounds like to me.
I wonder if the offers are more expensive during early semester to semester or at the end of spring?
That'd be an actually great question to wonder about, but since we can't get any information because it's so on the up and up that we can't have any info about what's really going on.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, we can't really figure that quite out. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like, this is a great trust, and then don't want to give anybody any details on anything. It's just that's the weird part about it. If this was all out in the open and you're just like, hey, Alabama offered Tyler Van Dyke $200,000 to come play there. What would be so wrong with that?
Nothing.
Like really though, what would be wrong? What would be wrong with just saying that?
Alabama Collective.
The Alabama Collective and Church's Chicken are offering him an NIL deal to do whatever. I just feel like if this thing's all, I mean, and I'm not arguing that it's not on the up and all that, but it is. It's legal. It's all going through. So why are we trying to be so secretive about what's actually going on?
Yeah.
I wonder if the only reason would be
because it's breaking rules, because there's people reaching out going, hey, Church's Chicken, and your DMs is, have you come to Alabama? And I'm just,
what if you're Alabama looking for a quarterback and you can afford whatever you wanted? We know that because Bryce Young and all. But what if it might affect the negotiating leverage if everyone knows what you're offering somebody and you have to then.
Well, I mean, that's better for the player.
Yeah, that's better for the player. That's and Craig, we might have stumbled off why colleges don't want you to know because once the colleges, everybody knows that these places are playing, then they can't. Well, we don't have the money for this. Yep. No, you do.
Yeah, I mean, I understand there's reasons some why, but when you really look at it that way, you're like, this whole thing's just kind of weird the way that it's all operated. But it's all supposed to be good and beneficial, but we're awfully secretive about a lot of elements of this really good and prosperous thing. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. And number 1, how long does UGA hold on to Brock Vandergriff? Carson Beck has won that job there to take over for 2-time national champion Stetson Bennett. Brock Vandergriff was a very, very, very highly rated recruit. Does he – right now it appears he's going to stay. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's Georgia. I'm sure he's got some comfortable NIL money and all of that. But there's not much time eligibility-wise,
year-wise. Have him call Bryce Petty.
Yeah.
Have him call Bryce Petty about patience, which nobody has anymore in this day and age. Stetson Bennett did not really play much. He played slightly in 2020.
You mean Brock Vandegrift?
No, I'm trying to use a comparison. Okay. He had to kind of take his time. Look what happened with him. Maybe that's what they can convince him of. But if you have another younger quarterback, both freshmen, sophomores, redshirt freshmen, or whatever.
Well, I think Carson Beck's a year ahead of him.
Okay.
So it's only a year. And now look, if Stetson Bennett, has kind of a unique story because of JUCO and walk on and his up and down and weaving through the works of college football. It's totally different now since Stetson Bennett became the starter at Georgia just in those 2 years. So that's why I don't know.
You wonder where he would have ended up had the NIL and whatever been available.
I can tell you the two schools I mentioned are now three. If it's Alabama, Alabama, especially Auburn and Florida, would love Brock Vandergriff to just say, I'm in the portal. And they would love to bring him in. Love it. But
yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll